Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Except today it's going to be a pendulum day. So, in my last video, I asked you to send in questions and you have done so. And so, without much ado, let's just get started, shall we? Before that, although I do want to take a moment and say thank you to my new subscribers. Welcome to the Soulprint family. Thank you for donations. It's lovely and very much appreciated. If you are looking for a private reading, you're going to find the information you need in the drop box below so that you can reach out to me and I can send you the information you need. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? Here we go. Okay, so I'm actually using a different pendulum. Okay, this one reacts very much the same way. They're all kind of programmed that way for me because it just works better for me. Okay, so when it's going side to side like that, you can see that it's ready to talk. Pendulum, show me yes. Okay, and you can see it's going back to back or back and forth. And pendulum, show me no. And round. Okay, I'm going to do my level best to make sure I tell you what the answer is verbally, because I know some of you kind of listen but don't necessarily watch. Okay, so here we go. And these are in no order. These are sort of like the order I received them in. Yeah, here we go. So, first question is, will Eric Swalwell's lawsuit be successful? I believe he is suing Trump or the Trump administration. I'm not sure. So that's like, oh, hello, Twyla. That's like a big yes. We're just going to hope she doesn't try to attack this because she's known to do that. Twyla is going to be celebrating her first birthday on December 1st, and we're very excited. This little monkey finally made it up to 8 pounds. So she still looks like a kitten, and she's just as mischievous as one. Good Lord. Okay, will Steve Bannon see jail time? And that's yes. Okay, so Thursday afternoon, the House voted to hold him in contempt. There's a bit of confusion. Everybody is saying, like, well, is Merrick going to do what he needs to do? It's not his actually decision. It is the Attorney General of Washington. Now, of course, Merrick oversees all of the attorney generals, but it's actually the Washington, and it's actually an acting attorney general in Washington, or DC, I guess, maybe. Okay, so is the appropriate attorney general going to charge Bannon with contempt? That's a yes. Okay. Some of you asked some really interesting questions that are not necessarily yes/no questions, and I have made a note of them and look to do future readings on some of the questions that were not sort of a yes/no. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, first we're going to ask about the filibuster. Is the filibuster likely to get modified so that they can get this some of this stuff passed? Okay, and that's a yes. And I think primarily what they're looking to get passed with the filibuster modification is the voting rights. Is that going to end up happening? All right, now, sort of the Freedom to Vote Act is kind of, that is the one that did not get a vote or did not get a passing vote on Wednesday. So, and as near as I can tell, the John Lewis voting rights is just sort of almost like in limbo because, of course, the Republicans are just, doing everything in their power. So let's ask this. Let's just ask it this way. Is some version of a voting rights bill going to pass? Okay, so yes. So the next question is that version going to be able to stop the worst of what some states are doing to really, really rig their elections. Is whatever voting act passes, is that actually going to be able to put a stop to it? Okay, so there's a yes for that. Okay. Will state legislators be successful in overturning election results? Okay, and that's looking like a no. Okay, next question. Is McConnell sick? I'm going to caveat that by saying physically sick, because I think his kind of quest for power at the cost of all doesn't exactly qualify me as coming from a healthy mind. But let's just stick to the corporal body, shall we? So is Mitch McConnell like physically ill? Okay. Is that likely to have him leaving politics before his current term is over? And that's yes. And I have to tell you, I can't go any deeper on this because there really are some things that, universally are just considered sort of none of our business. And so that we even got answers with that much intrusion is probably as far as we're going to be able to get this pendulum to tell us anything. Okay. Is Trump likely to have a stroke? Okay, that's a no. Okay. Is Joe Biden going to be able to serve his entire first term? And that is a yes. This is an interesting. Will there be specific stimulus for seniors? Okay, that is a no. And this obviously pertains to the United States because, in fact, in Canada, there has been one that went out specifically for COVID. Will Justice Alito leave the bench? I guess we're going to say within the next year. Let's do it that way. Okay, so that's getting a pretty darn strong yes. Somebody asked about the backlog of container ships, which is impacting the supply chain. So the question was basically, is there someone specifically who is manipulating things? I mean, I think they were specifically asking about DeSantis for political gain. Is that what's going on there? Okay, so by and large, that's a no. What I'm going to ask is what's going on with the shipping containers stacked up out in the ocean and they can't get into port more about a lack of manpower, a lack of employees? And that's a yes. Okay. Somebody wanted to know if there will be a cure for MS. Okay, so that's a no. Intuitively, what I am getting is that they're going to make some developments pertaining to, I want to say, sort of controlling and slowing down the deterioration. Pendulum, is that an accurate assessment? Okay, and so that's a yes. All right. Somebody wanted to know if Brian Laundrie will be found alive, and so we don't need a pendulum to tell us, yeah, that's not going to happen. I think they have pretty much definitively determined those were his skeletal remains found in, I guess, a national park in Florida somewhere. Somebody wanted to know if there was going to be a civil war for the United States. That is a no. Okay. Somebody else wanted to know if Putin was still in touch with Trump. And that's a no right now, because, the useful idiot doesn't really have any power right now. So there's that. People wanted to know if Trump was going to if he was going to leave the country to escape from his sort of legal issues. And that's a no. Is it something he is considering? Okay, and that, of course, is a yes, right? Is Trump going to be successful in suing the National Archives to prevent them from releasing documentation? No, of course not. Is Mike Pompeo, who's been surprisingly quiet, is he likely to run for president? I guess that would be in 2024 or beyond. Mike Pompeo for president? No. It feels like he, for right now anyways, he feels like he kind of escaped the worst of it with the whole Trump presidency. And I think for a while he's going to lay low. I don't think he wants to be too closely associated with that. Now, he's still a fairly young man. So, is it possible that he might run in, I don't know what's after that, 2028 or 2032? I guess we'll know then. Somebody wanted to know, if Trump was going to make an insanity claim. And that is a no. And I think I've touched on this as one of my readings, where his ego just is not going to let him publicly make a statement like that. Is Trump mentally deteriorating? Is there a mental deterioration in Trump? And that is a rather significant yes. Okay, just for those of you who might be wondering or questioning, generally speaking, a pendulum, when it starts to answer, will always it's like programmed to sort of start in the affirmative, and then it will move into the no. Oh, one other thing I want to say. Somebody, in my comment section, somebody actually answered the question much better than I could. They were commenting because in one of the last videos I did where I was asking the pendulum questions, I said trillion instead of billion in terms of the whole Build Back Better deal. And people were questioning if that sort of impacted. Okay, so the answer is this. When I'm using the pendulum for myself personally, I don't verbally ask questions. They're all mental. So the pendulums are, in fact, reading kind of my mind. And somebody said that she thought sometimes the pendulums were very, very clever and they understood what I meant even when I didn't quite say it. And that's actually really true. So if I misspeak an amount or even a person's name, if I'm holding a certain image or thought in my head, that's what the pendulum is responding to, okay? So just kind of so you know, that's, I guess, the mechanics, if you will, of what goes on with me in a pendulum. Is Al Franklin likely to run again for a political office? Okay, so as of right now, that's looking like a no. Okay. A couple of Alberta questions here. Is Kenny likely to finish his term? Is Jason Kenney, Premier of Alberta, likely to finish his current term? Okay. Now, there was supposed to be a leadership review in the fall, and that got moved up until next fall. And that got moved up till this spring because people are so irate over the way he's handled things. The guy has a 22% approval rating. I guess he's right up there with Mitch McConnell. So, okay, so then the next, is he going to find himself outed as a result of the leadership review? Is that kind of going to be what takes him out? Okay, and that's a yes. So the next question, only kind of Albertans will get this, but Rachel Notley is head of the new Democrat Party, the NDP, and she was actually in place before this last election. She was the premier, and when Kenny was running, he screwed up. Well, he purposely put out false numbers about how bad the budget was and what terrible shape we were in financially. Like, he literally made them up. And that was actually part of what he ran on. And it was only after the election, when he won, that he was like, oh, our math was wrong. Well, because of course, like, not only had he lied in the first place, but of course, once he won, he needed to, get himself to a place where he was starting with a lower deficit number. So the question is will Rachel Notley be the Alberta Premier again? Oh, that's a very enthusiastic yes. Okay. And Ford is, I think it's Doug Ford, going to be reelected in Ontario. And he has an election coming up. It is June of 2022. At this point, that certainly is not looking very good for him. Somebody asked about the sort of longevity of COVID. So that's a trickier question to ask, because it's a yes, no. So I'm kind of going to do it this way. Are we going to see sort of a significant reduction of COVID cases, I'm going to say by spring of 2022. Is that likely when we're actually going to start feeling like we've actually got this tiger by the tail? Okay, and that's a yes. And I have to tell you that intuitively, that's kind of the timeline that I've been given also. March, April feels like it's not going to go away completely, but it does feel like it's going to, we're going to start seeing it shrinking and diminishing. Let's hope that we're right. Okay, one more. Okay, so will Trump's followers eventually see the truth? Will they actually ever acknowledge the con? Okay, so I'm getting a yes, but really what I want to ask is more than 10% of Trump's followers going to see the truth before 2024? Is it going to be more than 10%? Okay, that's looking like a no. Apparently, I saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who of course has been doing nothing but on and on and on about, elections are false and you can't trust anything. Apparently her inside polling is showing her that at this point, 4% of Republicans are simply not going to vote because they don't believe that the elections are safe and secure. And so, even if they lose 5 or 7% of Republicans across the board who aren't voting because they have bought into this nonsense, that's a significant hit for Republicans to take. And so it's going to be curious to see how long it takes them to start trying to figure out how to backtrack without pissing off, the king of the con. That's going to be interesting to watch. Okay. Is Andrew Yang going to succeed in creating a third party? No, not at this time. The way I understand it, and I could be wrong, but the way I understand it is the way your sort of stuff is set up. I don't know, because if you think about it, so a third party, you kind of see what you would see, like what you see kind of here in Alberta, Canada, where you get like a 35% and then a 30, and so the question is your constitution set up so that somebody, for example, with a 37% win actually wins? Or Does it really have to be, you know, that 50 plus 1% or however it is you guys do it? So I don't know. I think in order to actually have a successful third party in the states, you might actually require some constitutional adjustments. I could be wrong. That's just sort of my feeling on it. Somebody wants to know if Congress is going to repeal something called the windfall elimination provision from Social Security. I do not even know what that is, but the pendulum apparently is saying no. Okay. Is Jeffrey Epstein dead? Does he no longer have physical form on the earth? Is he dead? Okay, so that's a yes. Was Trump or the Trump administration in any way kind of involved in that? Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit of a yes, because I think I'm going to ask it this way. Did William Barr have knowledge or advanced knowledge of the whole Epstein situation in terms of his, what they like to bill his own suicide? Yeah. So see, Barr would qualify as part of Trump's administration, right? Did Trump himself specifically know what was happening there? No, and it's because I'm hearing because they couldn't trust him to keep his mouth shut. So there were things that went on that, you know. Okay, Manchin is kicking up a lot of fuss because, you know, he's now threatening to leave the Democratic Party and run as an American independent. Is Manchin actually going to go through with his threat and leave the Democratic Party? Yeah, not at this time. That's a no. Okay. So following that, somebody wanted to know if the Senate is going to safely stay in the Democrats' majority. So let's look at this, let's say until the 2022 election. Is that going to be able to stay in the Democratic majority? Is the Senate safe and will it remain majority Democrat? Okay, yes. And since we're here, and is the Senate going to be a majority for Dems after the 2022 elections? And that's a yes. I think part of what, what I'm hearing is part of what you're going to see is that once they get the Build Back Better Act through, and it will go through, okay, and it will go through this year. I know that Biden is pushing for kind of a Halloween deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it. If not, it'll really literally be within kind of like the first week of November is energetically what I'm feeling. But I think what's going to happen is after that goes through, what Dems are going to sort of run on going forward is, listen, you loved what we did already. Keep us in the majority and give us a bigger majority so we can get some of the stuff done that we weren't able to do. I think that could be sort of part of the strategy. Somebody wanted to know if anybody is working on the whole disappearing of the personal protective equipment, certainly at the beginning kind of the COVID thing. I am getting a no, kind of there is no official body looking at that. Somebody wanted to know, though, if Kushner was involved with some of the disappearing. Yeah. Okay. That's just, again, you know what? There was so much corruption and so much nonsense going on. I mean, at some point, you kind of have to pick and choose what your fights are going to be about. And I guess that one got left on the cutting room floor. Oh, this is an interesting one. Somebody wanted to know if Trump was actually going to leave the Grand Old Party. Is he actually going to leave the Republican Party? Yes. And so is he likely to try to create his own party? Yes. And why not? And is that going to be successful for him? Yeah, no. Okay. Now, Biden is having sort of a dip in his approval rating. Nobody honestly is particularly concerned about it, although, the Republicans are trying to make a big deal of it. I mean, his lower approval rating is sort of, I think, higher than Trump's ever was. But, okay, so is Biden's approval rating likely to go sort of up to above 50% by the end of this year? Is Biden going to see sort of a renewal of, yes, okay, so that's like a really big yes. Okay. Ultimately, will Manchin and Sinema end up voting with the Dems on the infrastructure and Build Back Better bill? Yes. Okay. So sort of has been asked. After 2022, are the Dems going to hold the majority in the House? Yes, and thank you. And are the Dems going to hold the majority and a bigger majority in the Senate after 2022? Yes, and I understand. I mean, I don't quite understand how your politics works this way, but typically, the sitting president's party loses. I think it's a really high number, like something like 30% of their members. So it's like, with the midterm. So it's like a big deal if they actually manage to hang on it and, in fact, do better. But like I say, I think part of that strategy is going to be, put us in a position where the GOP can't continue to just obstruct us for the sake of obstructing us. I think it's going to be sort of part of their strategy. Will more than 5% of Republicans not vote because Trump says they're not going to vote? So already Marjorie Taylor Greene's, okay, that's getting a big yes. So as I said just a bit ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene's information is showing already 4% are saying they're not going to vote in the next election. And so it looks like it's going to go above, above the 5%. Okay, now democracies sort of around the world have kind of gotten together and they're doing this thing where they've all agreed that every country is going to charge at least a 15% tax rate on corporate taxes. Is that actually going to work? Yes. Okay. Is there going to be changes made so that SCOTUS can be rebalanced, so that there can be some sort of a balancing of the Supreme Court of the United States? Yes. So there's going to be some changes made there. I don't know, I still think that one or two of the sitting justices, I don't know. I see a couple of them kind of leaving. So we shall see. All right, lovely people. That answers and wraps up Your Questions, Pendulum Answers segment today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your questions. You ask really smart, clever questions, and I thank you very much for that. So it's Friday, it's the weekend. Enjoy it, decompress, take a little bit of time to enjoy the fall weather. Hopefully you're having some lovely weather. And I'll see you next week. Until next time, take care and be well. Bye-bye.